That was horrible. That was so fucking loud. Well, what's up, boys? Welcome to the first episode of Beyond the Zone, even though it's actually technically the third one. The long-awaited comeback of the podcast with a few smarter individuals of the community. Would you guys like to introduce yourselves?
Well, I'm Harry, coach for Valhalla Vikings. Been a coach for like 8 months. Co-host with Boop. 4 months since our last episode of Beyond the Zone, but no, finally getting it back and a few changes, but no, it's a lot better now. It's probably going to go a lot more smooth and yeah, a lot more interaction, so it'll be good.
Yo, and I'm Colin. I'm actually the first guest, I think. Really appreciate that.
Of course.
I'm an analyst for Team Atlantis, and other than that, I'm working with some of the pro players as a coach. And yeah, doing this since 6 months, I think, from Germany, Hamburg, Germany. Yeah.
All right. Funny enough, that's actually the first time we've ever spoken to Colin, so this should be an interesting one. Enough to find out together. Let me take a look at the Discord. We don't really have anyone in Discord yet, so I think the first thing we can probably just talk about is what changed this morning until we have someone who wants to ask a question. If you guys are interested in asking any sort of questions, whatever you want, it could be about fucking aim assist, it could be about what color my dog is, how often we brush our teeth per day. Join the Discord, go into the question screening, write your questions, and then sit in the podcast waiting room. And then you guys can be in there and talk about anything you want. So if you guys are interested in that, just go ahead and do that. And then we'll drag you in. You can ask your questions. So we have 2 people already waiting in the podcast waiting room. So I'm going to drag one of them in. They haven't screened their questions, so guys, if you are going to be going into the podcast waiting room, write your questions before so I can kind of have an indication of what we're going to be talking about. Otherwise, someone's just going to join and waffle to say it. But I know who Pad is, so I'll drag in Pad and let's see what he has to say. Hello, Pad. What is your question?
Yeah.
There he is.
Who do you think will be the best trio, and would you like to see double round trio cash cups?
Oh. Colin, go first. What's your thoughts?
Put him on the spot, dude.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I would definitely love to see triple round cash cups, to be honest. Because I don't know. I think that would be the only option to have custom finals, and I love custom finals. Weekly custom finals. I don't know. I just love them.
Yeah.
So I think triple rounds would be nice to maybe reduce it a bit first. So first round is W key round anyways, but then have second round where you can really need to pop off to get into this custom final as a third round. Maybe over 2 days then.
I mean, what about the sleep schedule of all the young children there?
Yeah.
Like, how would you organize that? Would you do it in 1 day or would you do 2 days?
2 days. 2 days.
Okay.
2 days.
So would you have one big cash cup with a big prize pool, not 2 cash cups, as in you just only have trio cash cups with a solo FNCS?
Yep.
I mean, that would work.
Right now, I think my favorite trio would be Tyson, Savage, and Giannis.
You stole my answer.
Did you guys expect that trio to come to fruition?
No, I expected Giannis and Tyson to get someone good.
Apparently, update from the chat room, they left.
Yeah, apparently Savage is no longer duoing with them. They're splitting. Yeah.
Come on, guys. We should know this.
I was going to say Giannis, Tyson, and Savage if they did stick together, but I don't know. I feel like if Giannis and Tyson get a controller player, they'll be good. I think they'll be really good. Like, if they were to get, like, a Wolfies or Lecce, like, they'd be a really, really good trio, because we got to think trio cash cup, not trio FNCS. Like, who's going to pop off in an open format? Realistically, it's going to be 1 to 2 controller players with someone who's decently smart. Like, that's realistically who it's going to be. So, like if MMB came back, they'd probably get top 5 consistently. I don't think they'd win as much as people think they will.
All right, Pad, thank you so much for your question, man. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
We're going to move on to the next person and give someone else a chance. All right.
Yeah.
See you.
All right, bye,
See
Pad.
you.
All right, so we have next coming up. Now we actually have the podcast room filled up, which I love to see, because that's going to come to some interesting situations. So next up, we have Desreal coming in. Yo, what's up, Desreal? What's your question, man?
Yo, hello. My question is, how should you play the cash cup today? Should I W key first game, and who's the best solo player EU?
Oh. I mean, it's just with a hard-hitting question at the end too. Like,
who wants to start with the cash cup then? Who wants to start off with how you should play the cash cup?
Well, I guess I'll just start off. Obviously, I've had this question so much, and I think people have different opinions. But I know from experience, there's either 2 ways you can approach this. Actually, no, there's not. There's one way you can approach this, pretty much in my opinion, is that your first game is the most important. Like all cash cups, your first game needs to be the biggest. You need to have the most points. You need to have a solid foundation to put yourself to that 180 point threshold to actually qualify. From experience, I don't think many of you were here when I live coached Moki. She played the first 3 games, was on 80 points, decided to change to an alt. First game had a pretty good W key game, and then her last 2 games she ended up getting first and second. So there is an argument to be made about being consistent in your placements, but you have to have that foundation at the start. So what I say is your first game, you start 5 minutes late, you play safe third-party spot, you third-party... Yeah, exactly. You win the game. You third party a place like Grotto, Shark. You get that power weapon, and you get height early on in first moving zone, and then from there you just win the game. And then the game subsequent to those, you just continue to play for placement. You don't go crazy, and you play off damage, and that is pretty much the way. And I know there's no easy way to do it. Obviously, you need to be a good player to qualify. You're not going to qualify just by sitting in the bush the whole time. You just have to have those kills as well. With 2 points per kill. That's my opinion.
Yeah. The win is most important in the first game, though. If you don't get the win for the tiebreaker, you're just putting yourself at such disadvantage. Because you go into the lobby second game, so you get like a 13 kill second, you're probably not going to get that win tiebreaker again. Like a guaranteed one. The first lobby is the only one you can guarantee a win tiebreaker.
Yeah. And for the second question with the Solo FNCS champion prediction.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's absolutely unpredictable right now because I think no one would have bet on Janice last the Invitational.
No.
It's such a huge thing about like grand finals, splitting landing spots, or getting contested by 5 weird German people in your spot. It's, I don't know.
But yeah, who do you think, Boop? Who do you think is going to win FNCS?
Oh, man. I don't know. I my heart says Savage because I just want him to do well again, or Mongo. But my brain just says someone like No, I'm gonna stick with it. I'm sticking with Savage.
Wow, you're copying my answer. That's crazy.
That was DreamHack was 4 months ago, Harry. Get over it.
But no, Savage is a fair answer. Yeah. And Colin, who did you say, or did you say you just can't guess?
I said it's unpredictable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can guess. Yeah.
I think Kiriachi.
Ooh.
He
depends how long he's in the boot camp.
Yeah. But no, that was good.
Thank you so much, Desri, for your question, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
we're gonna move on to the next person.
Yeah, thank you guys.
All right, see you, man.
See you in a bit.
See ya.
Bye. All right, then we have a lot of people in here. Let's go.
Wait, how many people we got in?
We have 5 people waiting right now. That's kind of
Let's go.
This next question comes from Norsway, and his question is: if you get into tournament late, you can get into bot lobby. I think that's kind of cheating. So let's see what he has to say. Hello, Norse.
Hello.
Yo.
So basically, my question is, like, I think it's kind of like weird that you can just like wait like 15 or 30 minutes to get in game with like people with 0 points and basically double key everybody. Like, kind of like weird. I don't know how to explain.
So I'm guessing your sort of question is, what's our sort of takes on, like, what do we think should be done to change it, or what do we think about just starting late in general for cash cups?
Yeah, I want to hear both.
Okay. So my first thing is that I think the Benji Fishy Cup was the perfect example of where you cannot do that, right? Because of how important getting to late game was in every game and playing out all your games, you could not get away with starting late. Like someone like Mitra, right? Some of you are probably going to say he got 87 kills and didn't qualify. And that's kind of insane, right? He didn't even get... he came 6,000th with 87 kills, which then... But my take on that is, if you are so much better than the rest of the lobby, surely you can just get to late game and nearly win or come top 5 every single game. Like, if that's the case, like, you should be able to.
It's just so simple.
But yeah, there has to just be some sort of change, because this is just like you're not playing to win, you're playing to beat the point system.
Yeah. That's a whole other discussion. All right, Norse, thank you so much for your question, man. Appreciate it. We'll move on to the next person. All right. Next question comes in from Rydax, and he says, and this is an interesting one. It's relating to the tier list, I think, as well. which will be interesting to fill in at some other time. But his question goes in as, there are too many questions / analysts in the community. And let's say Rydax. Hello, Rydax.
No way, it's Rydax.
Don't want to know.
Rydax.
Don't tell me he's going off.
I think his phone broke. His phone froze. Yeah, hello, Rydax. How you doing,
What's up? All right, so a question, a bit of a controversial one, but there are too many coaches, analysts in the community.
So could we add managers to that list?
Yeah, 100% managers, quote unquote talent scouts, channel managers, agents,
YouTube managers, Instagram managers, Twitter managers.
We can go
best
on and
friends,
on.
right hand, butler, servant.
Yeah,
I don't know.
You name it. The Fortnite community's got like 10 of those.
Hey, we'll open up the job market, you know.
But then I could turn around because Fortnite's such an open market, right? And there's no structure to it like any other esports or any other anything. Then I could say to you, I think there's too many like tier 2 players or tier 3 players who are putting too much, like they're putting too much time in without that much reward out of it. And there's because it's such an open market. Everyone's trying to get their foot in the door somehow, and some coaches are getting in lucky situations where they're getting onto good orgs because of the luck of the draw, and some aren't. And then basically what happens is like some players put in like who are actually good, or some coaches who are actually good, putting the time and effort, but because they don't get the clientele that they deserve, they don't do well. Like, so it's a really weird format. It's a really weird system where what do you actually determine a good coach is?
You actually just have to put it in your Twitter bio and you're a decent coach.
Yeah, that's actually it. Sorry,
that is very true. And you put up a price list, you're chilling. In the end, it's most people just care about numbers. That's why I think every single coach has the amount of money they've made or the amount of money they've earned for a player or the placements. People care about those numbers. They care about credibility and validity. And in the end, if you don't have that, then you're not going to get anywhere. And to get that, you need to be friends. You need to have those results. You need to be given those opportunities. Sometimes, and in the end, if the thing is, you need to be coaching good players to be a good coach, because you're not going to turn a top 1,000 shitter into someone who
you just called everyone who's top 1,000 shit.
I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. I have to, I mean, it's the reality of it. Someone who places top 1,000 and doesn't ever place top 100 will never become a top 10 player after one coaching session or 1 month session. That's just the reality of it. And and a lot of coaches take advantage of that as well. I know for sure because of the name that they have, and I'm not going to name any names, but because of the name that they have this sort of aura around them, this sort of cloud around them, that any work that they deliver, the player will believe it. They think, oh, this is what other coaches do as well. I'm not being scammed, when they get that 5-sentence VOD review from their coach. And there's nothing they can do about it in the end either. Yeah, in the end, the better coaches always come out on top.
True.
And some of them aren't the better coaches, but people will find that out.
If I were to end it off, as I once said to Boop, with a Chinese proverb, there is this one proverb that perfectly describes the situation. And it is, without comparison, there is no damage done.
That is beautifully said, Rydax. Thank you so much. Thank you, Rydax.
Right, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Of course, man. See ya.
See you.
All right. That was an interesting one to actually have. And honestly, I think that's going to have massive impact for the tier lists as well. I can't wait to do that at some point.
Good. GG's.
All right. So next up, we have, let me see, Axie. And his question is pretty straightforward, so we'll let him ask the question. Yo, what's up, Axie?
Yo, so for the how do you get 20 bombs consistently in the first game solo cash cups? And who would be the best trio NA?
Oh, okay.
So for cash cups, I don't know if you have to get a 20 bomb, but if you want to get a 20 bomb constantly, you should definitely practice one huge POI literally every game and land there to get 5 kills off spawn and then WQ everything you see.
I mean, there's no mistake why Amicho is one of the few people, Aqua is one of the few people that always gets those big games. So it's because they land places like Shark, they land places like Grotto, or you have those power weapons that finish the fight. The most important thing in Cash Cups is the ability to finish your fights. And this is going back to the controller argument. is those players can finish fights in a matter of seconds. If you're spending a lot of the time, so you have a bad ping, for example, you're spending all this time not being able to take this player's walls, the chances are you're going to get third parties faster, meaning you're going to be in a worse situation, you're going to waste more mats, you're going to waste more heals. All of a sudden, you have this weird situation where you're getting third partied and you have no way of countering it, and that just wastes time. So you need to be able to finish your fights. You need to learn those things. You need to learn how to effectively W key and get that damage done early on and get into the box. And that's done obviously easier by having the drum gun, having the grappler. Obviously, grappler gives you access to more parts of the map, makes you more mobile, it finds you those fights faster. But in the end, you just got to finish those fights fast. That's what I think. And your second question was, who do you think the best trio in NA was?
Yeah, it's going to be when the Trio Cash Cups happen.
My opinion is Bucky, Creo, and who was the third that they signed?
I'll look.
It was Bucky, Creo, and someone. And then when I saw that trio, I was just like, okay, this is an insane trio. Because Creo and Bucky...
Bucky, Creo, Canada.
Canada, yeah, that's it. I think they are probably going to be the first place.
I don't know. I like the trio from Boop too, but I think I saw Booga playing with Stretch and Commandment, I think. I'm not sure. I think that could be dangerous too. That could be a really good trio.
Thank you so much for your question, Axie. Appreciate it, man.
Thank you.
Have a good one, bro.
All right, see ya.
Alright, so I had a question in between here from someone who doesn't have voice, but we'll just pick it up real quick. And he says, as an up-and-coming competitive player right now, what is my best bet to improve in the shortest period of time possible? And what is my best way as well to option to find a trio?
Quit. No, I'm joking. No, I'm joking. Go to controller. But yeah, no, I think realistically at this point, I think the best way to improve would be arena, main and POI. If you are controller, good start. If you can play controller, go to controller. If not, doesn't matter too much. But yeah, realistically, arena's your best bet.
I think to find a trio, best option if you don't have like good achievements right now, absolutely next solo FNCS. First weeks you could have people maybe don't have a trio right there for the cash cup, so you could maybe try to place good in these solo FNCS first weeks, and then maybe if there are like solo cash cups or dual cash cups, you can play them also. And this should be like the main option, like the best option to find a trio.
And other than that, you just go into Discord and just find someone. And
Yeah.
just make it like you gotta make connections. In the end, I think for the first question, like improving yourself as a competitive player, I think at this point, if your mechanics aren't at that level where you're consistently making those good edits, you're thinking atmosphere, right hand peaks, you're doing all those things, and you're still not placing, you probably need to be looking at becoming a smart player. You have to be consistent in your mechanics. We have a lot of players who aren't the best mechanically, they're not flashy. Someone like Zexro comes to mind, who has insanely consistent aim, but in the end that doesn't really matter too much if you can't make it to late game. So I think VOD of you, focus on yourself, look at the game at the broader perspective, not at the smaller fighting perspective. Get a coach. There you go. 3 coaches here, very available, but some very available right now. But in the end, you need to be looking at improving that side of your gameplay. Get out of creative, stop cranking to Juice WRLD. Just focus on VOD viewing. I know VOD viewing is boring, but sometimes you just gotta do it. There's no other way to improve.
Yeah, don't work hard. Work smart instead. Don't just constantly just grind random shit. If there's something you're bad at, focus on that. Like, I think the problem a lot of people have, and I made a tweet about it, was they just randomly play the game for the sake of playing the game. They play 12 hours and they just play. When in fact, if you specifically practice things you're bad at, so like if it's off-spawn fights, if it's late games, if it's mid games, you practice those specific things, you'll improve so much faster. Because not every single player is going to be good or bad at every single thing. You know best what you're bad at. Like you can realistically sit there and go, okay, in a cash cup of 10 games or 6 games or whatever in the Benji Cup, where did I die the most? Okay, I died end game 5 times, and in 3 of them I didn't have enough mats. Okay, so what you need to practice is you need to understand how to get picks a lot easier, or have more mats going into late game with. And that's sort of what you got to do with your games, is try and just pinpoint the things you're bad at and just specifically practice them, and you'll improve the fastest that way, in my opinion.
Agreed. And don't look at the smaller things. Look at the the bigger picture. Obviously, if you're dying in this situation, don't say, "Oh, I died because I rotated too early or too late." Look at, okay, why is that a bad thing? Find that reason and then investigate it. But let's move on to the next person, and we have Crown coming in. Hello, Crown. What's your question, man?
A big thing controller players complain about is one button reset. Do you think they should get it? And what do you think about K-Quid and him cheating?
Oh, 2K. Yes, they should get. If they can give them more mobility as controller players, as in like as we talked about, like their not being able to, or fluidity, shall I say, as in they don't have one button reset. They don't have. It's harder for them to look around and all that sort of stuff, and like gain more information, as in they get sniped more and all that sort of stuff. But when it comes to your one button reset, absolutely they should get it. Nerf aim assist, give them more stuff that keyboard and mouse players have, as in like scroll reset, like more binds. I know, Colin, you're a controller player. You're probably the best to speak about this. Like, what do you think about it?
I don't know. Like, I think if you nerf aim assist, you should really give the controller better options, like to make it more equal with mouse and keyboard. I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's that's how you have to do it. If you want to level the playing field, you can't give controller better aim, but keyboard and mouse more binds. You have to give them the same binds, the same aim, the same everything. Like, in my opinion.
I think that's new wave. And the second question was
K-Quid.
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 A few weeks ago, he made a video about like aim assist on PC. That was the title. It just seemed a bit suspicious.
It was just really bad timing. Really bad timing.
Yeah.
If it wasn't cheats, it was really bad timing. But yeah, he should be banned. Whether it's for a month, 2 months, perma, whatever it is, I think he should be banned, guaranteed.
Yeah.
I agree. Thank you so much for your question, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good day.
Bye.
Nice. Yeah.
Moving on, Rect. What is your question, Rect? Hello.
Oh.
Hello.
Okay. Hello. My question is, how do you improve mentality, and do you think it's worth it to switch to controller, even if it's getting nerfed soon, or yes?
Shall we go over the controller quickly? We've gone over it loads. I think we can quickly. If you've already have old experience on controller, as in like say for example before Fortnite, before PC, you were on console, then yes, why not? I think having both inputs would be good if you can get good on controller, like something like Epic. Well, he'll go back to KBM if controller starts to controller becomes a lot weaker. Like I think realistically, if you can, and there is time to do it now with no real tournaments, go for it. But we don't know if controllers get nerfed or not. You might as well. If you feel like you want to and you've already have old experience in controller, go for it, in my opinion. What was the other question? It was mentality. Boople Colin, you can start on this one.
Not a mentality coach.
I am not a mentality coach, but I do have some experience with mentality and kind of looking at how to improve that. My biggest thing for mentality, and I think I've said this a lot on stream, Rect, but it's looking at expectations versus reality. I think a lot of people have too high expectations for themselves. They put a goal for themselves that's unrealistic, and when the first game doesn't go well, so let's say I'm going to qualify today for the Cash Cup, and I'm going to get 35 points per game. Let's say random number. Or I'm going to get 40 points in my first game. That doesn't happen. First game, you land, you get 50-50, you die a spawn. Oh shit, there goes my plans. All of a sudden, your mentality shifted. You have this pressure on you to kind of catch up the next game, and then second game doesn't go well. You have that more pressure that's building up, and all of a sudden it's just built up pressure to an extent where you have no way to rationalize those feelings. All of a sudden you're emotional because of the expectations you set for yourself, and you just end up being angry because you feel like you've disappointed yourself, or you've disappointed your expectations, or you're not doing well enough. So I think if you put realistic expectations, you just take the games as they come, and you play the games. You play every single game as a single entity. That might be the wrong word, but as a single opportunity. Then I think your mentality will improve a lot from there on. All right, thank you so much for your question, Rex. Do you have anything else to say?
Yeah. Buff aim assist.
Oh.
Buff aim assist,
indeed. You just went with it. Okay.
Yeah, I think Diddle was next.
Is it Diddle? All right, Diddle. What is your question?
Yo, what's up, boys?
Yeah, what's up, man?
So my question is, what is the best way to improve on high ping, and what is the best loadouts for high ping?
Ooh.
So obviously, if we're talking about high ping players, I don't think we can mention anyone else but Kiriachi. In terms of improvements, high ping players, how they're a complete different breed. If you take a look back also at Benji Fishy Cash Cup reviews, stuff like that, you have to be very methodical in the way you play. And I think the biggest factor for high ping players is aim, since you have to have consistent aim. All those like Eastern European players have the best aim I've ever seen, because they need to rely on that. You're not going to get another opportunity. You're not going to be the fastest. So you have to make sure those shots count.
So if you can't play the same, you cannot expect to play the same way as everyone else does. Like you cannot expect to take the same fights as people do. You can't expect to play in that sort of way. You have to try and play for what you can control. And things you can control are your positioning, your rotates, and sort of the way you engage fights. Those are the things you can control. You cannot control sort of like random fights that happen. You cannot control getting beamed. Those things will happen on high ping, and it's really hard to avoid them. But the things you can avoid are like making sure you try and make sure you're rotating safely. You're trying to make sure that when you are playing late game, you're not trying to force like 50-50s onto people, because they will just naturally win because of ping. But when it comes to like high ping, I just think, more sort of methodical play style and less about W keying is most of the time a lot more consistent, and can have a lot of success. But someone like Kiriachi has proved that you can do it. But obviously when he went down to 30 ping, he played a lot better, and it was a lot easier for him to do his play style, which is he's very unpredictable in fights. You cannot be predictable on high ping, because if you're predictable on high ping, you'll lose every 50-50, and they'll be able to piece control you, take your walls, and that sort of stuff.
All right.
Good stuff.
Thank you for your question, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
That's it.
And we have two left. We have Brad and Zer. I don't know which one was
Brad. Brad's been here
Brad?
for a while. Brad's been here for a while, yeah.
Brad's smoking. Okay, but Brad, what is your question, man?
So I've got two questions, if you don't mind me asking. The
Yeah,
first one, Parker FN did say it in the questioning. What's the best way to just W key? Is it like just getting involved, or is it to like pick the right fights mid game and end game?
We've talked about it a decent amount, but I think the best way is to make sure you're not taking. When you say W key, what a lot of people think is you have to land a mythic POI. We've talked about it. I don't think you naturally have to. You can get the good loot afterwards. You don't need to take 50-50s. When W keying, it's all about being the aggressor and making sure that you're not ever sort of putting yourself in a situation where you can get aggressed on. Realistically, be the aggressor, and make sure that you're trying to take as many third parties as possible. It's the freest kills in Cash Cups.
What was your second question?
So I was playing the duo Cash Cup. I think was it yesterday? Yeah, it was yesterday.
It was yesterday,
With a random control player. We're both controller, and the way he said is like he copies pros. Like he was like, "Oh, this rotate here, this land here. That's what all the pros do." Is that the right way to go about things, or do you do it your own way?
You can VOD review, you can copy people, and you're probably gonna do okay. But when you're looking at learning and improvement, you have to know the intention behind the play. If your players are making certain rotate, obviously the situation is gonna be different. You're gonna have different zones. You're gonna have different rotations, different timings, different bus paths, which I feel like is hugely underestimated in rotations nowadays. But you need to be aware of those things and looking at the situations where you can apply that rotate. So I think one small example is that for the play I live coach for Heats, not for Heats, for the reboot round, Verst, I was VOD reviewing Canada and looking at where he goes after his rotations from Risky Reels. And when I copied that rotation, it completely didn't work because the situations were different. And that was a little learning moment for me, is that copying someone's exact rotation path doesn't work unless you know exactly what they're looking out for and the information they're basing it off. So when you're VOD reviewing those players and you're looking at those rotations, you need to be aware of what information do they have and what choices are they making based on that information. So for 50-50 rotates, for example, why you see a person randomly rotate now, what is that reasoning? What are they doing? What's the intention behind it? And you'll be a lot better, because the best players, they don't know what to do for each zone. They don't have a game plan for each zone. They know the triggers associated with rotating for that zone, and then when they see that trigger, they go for it and they make that rotation. So look at the intentions and find out why people are doing things instead of what people are doing.
Oh, no. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Thank you for your question, Brad. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
That's it.
I thought we had another person, but I think they've left the queue.
Oh,
my god. My question is in DMs. Let's see what Zuren's question is. Oh, he had to go eat his lunch. Alright, this is his question. This is gonna be the last question, guys. How do you stop getting nervous when you're in arena and in tournaments, and how do you stop getting 50-50 off spawn in your job spot? I feel like they're two different things, but
I think the nervous thing's good. I think if you're nervous in arena and you play arena and you're nervous, then surely that's no right. If you're nervous playing arena, right, and because it matters to you and it matters practice, then isn't that practice for fighting in cash cuts when like you're nervous in a cash cut and something like that? Because that's one thing I found is quite a big problem for a lot of players. It's hard for people to practice fighting realistically, whilst having sort of something on the line. Like in a cash cup, if you lose the fight, your tournament could be over. It could be like a make or break game or something, and it's hard for people to actually practice that sort of stuff. So if you're nervous in arena, if you want to get over the nerves, just play more arena and then get used to the experience. Exactly. But if you're nervous in arena and then nervous in cash cups, then practicing in arena and just naturally just playing it more will make you then better in cash cups, because you have the same amount, you're putting the same weight on cash cups in arena, which is actually really good because not many people actually do it enough, because then they don't practice that like feeling nervous in a fight, and like the like little like jitters you'll get, like a little bit nerves, like maybe you whiff a shot, and it making sure it doesn't hurt your mentality too much in a fight. Because what happens is someone will like miss a shot and then they'll play really defensive in the fight because they're like, I know I can't take another shot. So it's about just making sure that you still have those same sort of, you play in the same way in arena as you would in a cash cup, and naturally you'll get better at both.
It's not the worst thing in the world, but obviously when it comes to tournament time, we need to be looking at improving that nervousness. Obviously there are certain ways to decrease that sort of energy that you have, and I think there's a lot of YouTube videos out there on how to be less nervous, and one of the most popular memed one is chewing gum and breathing, $50 breathing.
$50 breathing sessions.
But in the end, like those things all have two things in common. It's relaxing your nerves and keeping the adrenaline down. So I think a lot of players, when they get nervous, they have shaky hands and they have shaky feet, and that comes mainly from the amount of energy that they have from the adrenaline that they have, since your body's preparing for battle, quote unquote. Obviously we're not going to battle, but
we're going to war.
But from
Cash cup felt like
cave, I mean, it's the same sort of thing, right? It's a nervous system. Back when we were cavemen and when we were fighting a tiger, we got the same amount of things. Now, when we're nerds sitting on our bedroom, we have the same sort of adrenaline kick. But you just need to have a way to kind of exert that energy and get that out. So take a break every 5 minutes after a game, walk around, get a water, get that energy out. And take a walk before the tournament. Get some of that nervous energy out, because once you're sitting still, your legs start shaking, your arms start shaking, and you want to have a lot of that energy already gone at that point. So exercise is very important, I would say.
Yep.
All right, so I want to thank Harry and Colin for joining me on this podcast. I think it was really interesting, and hopefully everyone enjoyed it. Do you guys have anything to say? You guys can plug your Twitters or whatever you want.
Go on, Colin.
Yeah, I enjoyed it, and my Twitter's on the screen below my beautiful profile picture, boys.
At bigbraincolin, go follow him, boys. Yeah, no problem, Colin. Appreciate it. And Harry?
Same here. My Twitter below my below my beautiful cat, even though it's not my cat. But no, I enjoyed it. Happy to be finally getting the podcast back, and hopefully this time we can actually get some consistency with it, because I actually thoroughly enjoyed it, and I think it'd be really good for, well, sort of get different point of views, and also to sort of help people out as well who might not have the money for coaching or stuff like that, and they can just come here every week or twice a week or whatever, and just have I can ask a question and get it answered by people who sometimes are wrong, but most of the time have a good understanding of it. But yeah, thoroughly enjoy it.
I think that was also one of the intentions, is if people don't have the money for coaching, they can come in, ask a question, hopefully we can help them out a little bit. And obviously we're all in the same community, so let's help each other out, let's be kind to each other, and I think that's pretty much that. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and if you guys have suggestions for other guests, since Colin is obviously our first guest on the podcast, we're going to be finding other guests, more coaches in, so let me know on Twitter at @boopinel_ for other coaches you would want to see, maybe even a manager, who knows, anything. We can talk about gameplay to the Fortnite scene. since I think all of us are pretty well known in the scene and have a lot of experience in the scene, so we could help people out. So I think that'll be great. So have yourselves a good rest of your nights. I'm gonna be live later on for the Cash Cup if people are interested in that. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Have yourselves a good night. Hopefully you enjoyed. There will be a YouTube video up of this podcast somewhat in the future if you guys missed some of the questions. But that's pretty much it. Have yourselves a good night, guys.
All right, see you in a bit.
Bye.
See you guys.